Welcome to this podcast for Brighton School of Business and Management students studying for the Btec Level 5 courses. For this unit, you need to satisfy the criteria exactly as laid down in the assignment brief and as described here, but you should, wherever possible, use examples from your own organisation and business sector, as well as showing evidence of having studied the unit topics in depth and breadth by referring, where appropriate, to relevant models, theories and established best practices. To enhance your understanding of these assignment issues, we strongly advise that you also discuss them with operational and senior managers and HR and training specialists within your own organisation. Each section should be approximately 500 words, although this is flexible up to around 600 words, not including graphics or illustrations, so you'll need to keep your responses focused on what is being specifically asked for in each section. For this assignment, you need to focus either on your current work role, previous work experience or a voluntary work position, using the examples from your own workplace experiences where possible, and also drawing on your studies of this subject. Section 1. Here you will need to identify a vacancy or potential vacancy within your own organisation and, if possible, make it an interesting one. And then for that position, first of all, define it as a specific job or position, then describe the requirements you would look for to fill that vacancy, prepare a job description, and finally prepare a person specification. Section 2. Here you will need to name and describe current legislation and laws that have impact on how organisations, and particularly your organisation, recruit and select people, for example, sex, age, race discrimination laws, working hours laws, minimum wage laws and employment of foreign workers, etc. And then explain what the purpose of the legislation is, even though this should be fairly obvious. And then finally analyse how effectively, in reality, not just on paper, this legislation is incorporated and applied in your own organisation, and give examples to support your views. You should also mention briefly any imminent or planned legislation in this area that may affect the recruitment of personnel. Section 3. For this section, we advise that you do this for the vacancy or position you described in Section 1. You will need to prepare the documentation needed for the interview panel members. Your own organisation will have a checklist of these, but also research best practices by searching the internet using the phrase job interview plus documentation plus checklist. If you have no experience of interviewing and cannot arrange an actual interview or a simulated interview, then you will need to provide a detailed description of how you would expect to participate in the interview for the position that you have described above. For bullet point 2, we recommend that you critically evaluate the recruitment and selection processes in your own organisation, and if this is not possible, then please consult with your tutor. Examine the strengths and weaknesses, unfair aspects, attitudes and awareness within your own management and HR departments, and discuss how these compare to established best practice. You also need to take into account how up to date the policies, procedures, JDs, PSs, staff expertise, etc. are within your own organisation, and make recommendations for improvement to the processes. Don't forget that you also need to add a list of sources of information and references showing any books, websites, articles, case studies, reports, internal documents and people interviewed that you drew on in order to complete this assignment. The sources of information and references are not included in your word count. Here is a list of websites you should find useful when completing this assignment. Finally, if you need any further help or assistance with this assignment, please contact your tutor.